and you have good stuff.
I'm going to say it as I start every friggin' podcast. Lonnie, you were shredding in that, and I hope you're listening, my friend. That's an amazing, amazing intro that you gave me. Thank you so much. Folks, look all around me here on the screen. This is pretty cool. I have an old friend to my left here. Maybe it's right on the screen. Used to do a lot of podcasts together. Welcome back, Lindsay. And
hello, friend.
I have my other friends from a podcast that they allowed me to visit through the Glass podcast, Julie and Steve. Welcome. And then I have my new friend down this way, Robbie, who I'm just going to meet with you guys. He is also with Steve on a podcast called Forge in Silence. We'll start this off. We'll start with Steve. Give us a little intro of who you are and what you do, my friend.
Oh, wow. First and foremost, I love this who you are, because I still struggle with the who, and I replace it with the what. Here's what I do, not who I am. And I don't have this quite nailed down yet, but I'm a guy whose mission right now is to create impact. So that's like one of the things that has been most the top of my mind. But outside of that, because that's all I have right now. Outside of that is I am a returning student. I'm going into my second year to get an accounting degree. I'm co-host of the podcast Through the Glass Recovery podcast, just about to fire up season number 4, getting recordings going for that. Julie is my co-host there. Julie, I'll let you touch on that one. And then the other little passion project I started up with Robbie this past February was Forged in Silence podcast, a men's mental health podcast addressing issues men face but rarely talk about. And so that's on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple. And it's not a recovery-based podcast as much as it is. Robbie and I wanted to focus on the stuff that men don't talk about. Like there's the silence that we just shut up. There's loneliness. There's relationships. We invite Julie and a couple other women that we know that would sit and talk honestly about their take on things. So we do that about once a month, where we invite a couple ladies to join us and share on that. But men don't really often have places to talk or have the resources, I think, that are available to women like they are. So if you take a look at it, I figure I got lucky in the sense that I had an addiction. So there was when you have an addiction, it comes with support group. AA was one of the places that I went to before I left, and I found for me what was greener pastures, and then created a recovery that worked for me. But like what happens to the guy that wants help, that wants to get connection, that wants to do things? Right now we're in a world that's full of social media and ways for us to connect, but we're so fucking disconnected, it's ridiculous. And so we wanted to put something together to give a voice to the men that are experiencing these things in their life and bring an honest conversation to them. And so that's kind of what we started and what our mission is, and the little YouTube podcast is it's starting to grow a little bit of wings and grow a little bit. So it's been, I've learned just as much, I think, as the guys who have joined us. So it's been a gift.
Oh, yeah.
Cool.
And was it, I feel terrible. Was it AJ or TJ, the podcast that you guys had that was super powerful? I mean, it was powerful to me, but I can't remember.
AJ, the live, you
AJ.
watched that live recording. He got super emotional, and you can tell his heart is in trying to figure out how to improve his life and just be better. He lost the love of his life by saying stupid shit to her, and he just carried around a lot of anger, like, and now he wants to do better, but he's still trying to figure out how. So I mean, all the power to him, but the courage he had to show up and have the conversation he did with us was really powerful.
Yeah, I agree. And definitely check that out. Again, it's Forge in Silence, and that one was with AJ. Right?
Yeah.
I am terrible with names, even when it's 2 letters.
I mean, we all have our strengths and weaknesses, Scott.
There's got to be a balance, though, man. There's got to be a balance. All right, so let's go down to Robbie. Robbie, nice to meet you, my friend.
Nice to meet you. Thanks for having me on here. I really have a hard time with this question too. The what? What do I do? First and foremost, I'm a father. I have a 15-year-old daughter, and my goal with her right now is to be very open with her and teach her about life from a men's perspective. Her mother kind of abandoned her, so she now lives with me, and we're going through the journey together. So it's a little, she was with her mom, now she's with me, and I'm doing my best to be open and talk to her about all the things and being the best father I can be. So that's first and foremost. Second, I'm on this lifelong journey too, of being a better man in a lot of aspects, from addiction to fatherhood, friends, family, those type of things. I'm always working on being a better man. I have another podcast that I do. It's called Golden Hour Adventures. It's everyday people doing extraordinary things. We feature a lot of endurance athletes on there. Talk a lot about 100-milers, triathletes. Julie was on there with her through hike on the Colorado Trail, stuff like that. Then with Steve, Forge in Silence. Touch a little bit on that. My growth from just February with that has been through the roof. To sit down with men and be vulnerable is something I didn't have growing up. And it took me to be in my middle 40s, to sit down and have a discussion with men and be very vulnerable. One of the things I really take away is being able to listen and hold space for other men and just give them the okay that it's okay to be here, and we're going to get through this together.
Oh, yeah. That's very important. And to have a welcoming, to see other guys get vulnerable. You never know how powerful that could be to the guy that just stumbled upon your show and like, man, I've been holding on to this, and look at this guy. He's really pouring it out there. Can really, really change things. Absolutely. I'm glad you're here, man. Would you say endurance athletes?
Yeah.
Wow. Might have to pick your brain.
Yeah.
I got no endurance. All right. So let's, Julie, good to see you again.
Yeah.
What's new?
Oh, what's new? Well, the answer to that question is like my life got flipped upside down in May when my youngest kid graduated. And so I'm suddenly like not a homeschool mom for the first time in 20 years. And so I feel like I'm just starting over in my life. Nothing really looks different in my life. Like she still lives at home. It's not like I'm an empty nester yet, but I'm like, holy shit, now I have to figure out what I'm going to do when I grow up. That's all I've ever done. So yeah, that's the new, yeah, the question, like, who are you? I'm like, I don't know exactly what words describe me, but I feel like I'm a seeker, and I'm a questioner and a challenger. And this whole recovery journey has been so enlightening and incredible. I started, I quit drinking for the first time in 2019, and I lasted about 14 months. Did it completely alone. I didn't tell a soul that I was struggling with alcohol. I just had this horrible meltdown and swore I was never going to drink again, and I didn't for 14 months, which is, I mean, pretty impressive if you think about it, with no support at all. But obviously that didn't last. So I drank again and went through like a year-long relapse. And then I found an actual recovery community. That's where I met Steve. And that's where I like found connection and the value of talking to people about recovery and what it means and what we're after and what that looks like for us. So Steve and I started Through the Glass Recovery podcast in September of 2022.
I can't believe it's been that long
It's
ago.
it's been a while.
You were like what, 6 months sober?
No, I was a year sober.
You were a year sober, and I was just
Yeah,
over.
we started
it was a year and a
talking
half.
about it when I was about 6 months sober, and
That's
it just
right.
took us a really long time to do anything about it.
Yeah.
But no, we started. I was a year sober. You were like 18 months.
Mhm.
So I'm just coming up on 4 years, and we're coming up on season 4, which is really cool. And through the podcast and through just some of the work that I was doing in the recovery community and whatnot, Steve and I both had people start approaching us about doing coaching and working with them. So we both got certified as recovery coaches. And so that's what I kind of do now on the side as I move into this new phase of my life. So I have a website called noalcoholneeded.net, and I do a lot of blogging and writing about sobriety and tools like, you had mentioned earlier. And yeah, like there's so many different facets of my recovery. But like Steve said, my goal is to create an impact. And I was that like the mom who looked like she had it all together, that like everything looked perfect on the outside, and I was drowning on the inside and drinking a bottle or two of wine every night. So definitely the more I talk about it, the more I realize how common that story is and how many women are hiding behind all of it and don't want anyone to know. So every time I have the opportunity to share, like letting those women know they're not alone is really important and really valuable to me.
Absolutely. And as much as men hide their feelings, women are super strong, people, and they hide as much as anybody. We got to put on that face. Your mom, you're the one that everybody comes to, right? Like we come to mom for love and affection and dad for support. So there's reason for both sides to put on a face and try to bury their shit. And it can show in very, very terrible ways at times. And a lot of times it's through addiction.
Yeah. Well, and there's a balance, right? We've got to be the strong one sometimes, but we also have to have a place to go and be soft and let people in. And a lot of us don't have that place. So I was lucky enough to find it. And my goal is just to help other people find it too. Just like the guys were saying, vulnerability, male or female. Women like to pretend they're vulnerable, but we always keep the really important stuff hidden. Like that's the stuff we need to be talking about. So yeah, definitely. Really grateful to be here. Thanks for doing this and thanks for having me.
Yeah, you and Steve both used the word connection. And one of my favorite quotes going through all the treatments that I've been through, excuse me, is connection is the opposite of addiction. And we need to connect not to just one thing necessarily. I mean, if one thing's all you needed, great. But it's a bunch of connections, different power sources to beat that thing. And I just thought it was neat that you both used that word. Lindsay, missed you, dude. It's been a minute. How's it going?
I'm glad to be back. Glad to meet new friends tonight. This is awesome. I've been needing this in my life, so thank you for having me. I've missed you. I am Lindsay. I don't know who I am. I'm trying to figure that out, actually. I'm in the middle of my my journey to my next identity, I guess, right? I don't know. I always describe what I do, and I always say in my recovery as who I am. So this is very confusing as well. But I entered this land of recovery years ago and have just been looking for answers about myself and trying to improve myself every day that goes by. I fell a few times, but I've gotten back up. And I've been doing YouTube for a couple of years now on addiction recovery and other stuff. So now it's kind of a mixed bag, but I just try to be myself and vulnerable and authentic and whatever, all those keywords, and whatever comes out, hopefully it helps somebody else and helps myself. But yeah, I'm an addiction counselor, and I'm in recovery myself, and all that jazz. I'm just trying to figure out what I want to do next for my new career. I'm going to move on from this, I think. So,
All right.
yeah,
All
we'll
right.
see.
Glad to have you, dude. So I guess since I posed the question, I should probably answer it. And now that you guys struggled so much with it, now I don't know how to answer it. Like my first thought was to be determined, right? Like I'm 43, like in like a month and a day, it'll be 3 years for me.
Nice.
Since that last,
Congratulations, man.
yeah, thank
A
you.
month and a day. What's your sober anniversary?
September 11th.
Oh, mine's the 12th.
Holy
Okay.
shit. Yeah.
Yeah. So we're coming up on another anniversary here. It's just, I don't know, like I got this job as a recovery coach and I thought, oh, I'm a recovery coach. And then it's like, okay, half the people I work with, they don't want to be there because the courts are like, hey, get your ass over there and go talk to these people, or it's a cage for you. You know what I mean? And so now it's like, is that who I am? But Robbie's absolutely right. Number one, I think adjective would be father, dad. My kids are back in my life. I went 2 years without seeing them in person, and just right around a year where they wouldn't even talk to me. And they were only like 9 or 10 at the time, maybe even a little bit younger. And I was speaking to their mother's voicemail for a very long time. Hey guys, it's Dad. I just wanted to let you know I'm doing okay, blah, blah, blah. So I got that going for me. So I guess I don't know who I am either.
It's an interesting question, right? Because we always fall to the what, not the who.
Yeah.
Not to the piece of your heart, like the piece of your heart that you give away to everyone else. That's who we are.
Yeah.
Right. And
Yeah.
so like it's an interesting question, but I don't think it's one that we give enough time or thought to.
Do we ever know the really fully, completely know the answer to that question?
No, but I mean, I guess you could like, there's got to be some parts of you know who you are instead of just what you do.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like it's easy to fail to the what because it's an action, it's a thing that you do. But like, what's the feeling and intention behind the thing that you do on a regular basis? That's more of the who, is it not?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm Scott and I'm evolving.
There you go. Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah.
Definitely.
There was a long time that I was going to be a professional baseball player, and I was this close, and then I got scared, right? And then so that went away. And then a long time I was going to be a coach forever, and that went well for 13 years, and then alcohol took that away. You know what I mean? So it's, I guess, as long as we're evolving and moving forward and learning from each day, we're winning, right? I'm winning.
Sounds
today.
like you're approaching life with curiosity.
Yes, sir.
Ooh.
Adventurer.
Mhm.
Adventurer is a good one. I would agree with that. A mental adventurer and a physical one too.
Yeah.
Yep.
So we were talking before we went live, and it was getting really good. And then Steve made the great suggestion: just hit live, bro. And so let's see if we can recapture that thing. I had a couple different ideas for this, and I kind of like to just let it flow because I feel that it feels more authentic that way. So my first question was going to be, what is recovery? But that seems too broad. And then I was like, so what are some tools that you guys use in your recovery? And that, like I said, recovery doesn't have to be limited to substance. Mental health is obviously a big thing for a lot of friggin' people. So what tools did you use for that? And I started talking about the street cred that I had. I'm a felon. And so I feel that when somebody walks into my office for an intake at my facility, and they look at me, I try to keep my hair cut and try to look like a decent human being. A lot of times when you go into those places, you're like, oh, fuck, look at this guy. And then they start talking and they're like, my life is over. I just got my first DUI. I'm going to lose my job. I don't know what to do. And then I can say, well, I understand that fear that you're having right now. I have 4 DUIs and I am a felon and I'm doing okay. It's probably going to be okay. And like Steve had mentioned earlier, it's weird that we have to have that cred, but go ahead and latch back onto that, Steve, if you want.
Well, you said you had it was cred. It gave you credibility in that situation for sure. And I don't have a felony, nor do I have any DUIs. So then I'm credless, even though like I'm 4 years sober. But I mean, even time doesn't give you a whole heck of a lot of cred. It just doesn't, because you can be sober for 4 years and have done nothing.
I think the better word than cred is the word that you and Julie used, is maybe connection. Like you can connect with that person through those experiences.
Yeah. Go ahead.
It's
Julie.
the commonality, right? I mean, I wouldn't have a whole lot of cred if I sat down with somebody who had, DUIs and a felony. But I have an awful lot of cred when I sit down and talk to the mom that's drinking 2 bottles of wine a night and doesn't want to tell anybody about it. And when I can tell her where I came from, then we have that commonality. As soon as any of us in any situation shares the hard stuff we've been through, the stuff we're ashamed of, then somebody who's carrying that same shame immediately feels a connection and feels safer because they feel seen and understood. So your cred is different than my cred, but I think everybody in this room probably has some serious credibility.
Right. And when it comes to the DUIs, and I'm just guessing here, there's probably been an opportunity or two for both of you to have one.
Oh, for sure.
Right. So
I got pulled over and I was drunk as hell. I don't know how I got away with it, but I mean, whew, it's been way too close, way too many times.
Right. So, I mean, you guys still have that experience, which is extremely valuable. You know what I mean? Like, and some of us just have bad luck. It wasn't bad luck on my part. I only got caught 14 times out of 10 million that I tried. So I'm still lucky with only 4, and then I didn't hurt myself or somebody else.
Yeah.
So what kind of tools, Lindsay, what are some tools that you've used to get this thing, whatever it was that you were battling?
Oh man,
manageability.
Ooh, manageability.
I don't know. That's a real word.
I want to say, I like what you said, Julie. But I was thinking, I think what gives us, when I'm talking to someone in recovery, and what gives them credibility to me is the same kind of emotions and feelings, and maybe that despair from alcoholism and addiction of any kind, or even trauma recovery that I felt. That's like the commonality for me, that I'm like, oh, like, even I don't care if they've been arrested like me, been to prison like me. None of that matters, and it's just it's cool to, you instantly connect to someone when you've had that unmanageability of alcoholism and addiction, and the other person gets it too, because the unmanageability isn't just the external things. It's, as we know, it's internally, it's like when it comes to that point for us. So I think using a support network has been the greatest ally of mine. Honestly, I don't want to sometimes, and I like to isolate, and it's no good for me. So I try to seek out people that have something going on. I like what they're doing. I like their message, and I'm inspired. I try to go in that direction. I don't always do that, and sometimes I struggle with that, but that's been the biggest help. People, places, and things, as we all know, is huge. I just had to start over, and that's what I've had to do every single time that I've come back. So I could go on and on. I don't want to go on and on with the, I want everybody else to talk.
Well, so may jump in then.
I think for me, the biggest tool of is, we're probably all going to sound like a broken record, is a connection, though.
Yeah.
Without connection, for me, there was no motivation. There was no accountability. There was no vulnerability. There was nowhere to get it out and put those words out there on how I was feeling and why I was using substances, because I was using them, but I didn't know why. Then once I started to learn why I was numbing the pain, that's when a lot of stuff changed for me. Some other doors opened, and that's when I also really got to understand my problem. I knew I had a problem, but just kept saying everyone does this and kept pushing it off. Then I got sick of my same old shit. Then once I started learning that with the help from others, I can 100% say if I didn't have help from others, I wouldn't be where I'm at now, and still continue this day. I got to lean on others with help, and then I like to help others out. It's a two-way street for me. Take some, then give some, and it keeps me motivated.
So we can keep going with the connection thing. So let's break it down a little more. Like, we all had connections while we were in the thick of it, right? We had, like me, I had my great grandmother who was 2 million years old, and God bless her, she was doing everything she could to try to save me. What about obviously those connections were there, and the ones that I already had wasn't going to necessarily get me out of the rut that I was heading in. I needed some new ones. So talk about some connections that you went out and got outside of the ones you already had. Anybody?
I'll jump in because the one thing we haven't we talked about connection. For me, it's talking about it, and to talk about it, I had to go to meetings. Right? I think there's a stigma around going to meetings and it being a punishment or some sort of like a thing that you're stuck with or whatever that may be. And I did. I went to meetings. I went to AA. I did the thing that it was the only thing I knew existed at the time. So I went and I tried. It doesn't mean that it has to work. I think it means that you got to go and try. It gave me a space to get some of the things that I needed to off my chest. It gave me a space to be with other people that had the same problem that I had. And I think that's where I first found connection. I was allowed to be vulnerable. And even though it was a space that I was still uncomfortable in, I still found connection. It wasn't the connection that I was needing, but I still found connection. I found connection to my story. I found connection to the problem. And then inside of continuing to try, I explored other options, things that felt that were more aligned to my values and things that that felt like I wasn't trapped inside of a box, because that's how I felt when I was in AA long enough. I was like, okay, there's got to be more to life than this. And then so I explored other forms of recovery. That's where I met Julie, in just a regular kind of all recovery type meeting where we shared what was going on in our lives. We were also trying to make ourselves better. We were also trying to figure out how to have a healthy emotional response to what life was throwing at us. And instead of just sharing, how we did it through a list of steps, we just shared how we did it, and we worked on how to figure out how to solve our problems. And we stayed up late on Zoom, and we talked about stuff, and we cross-talked, and we gave each other shit, and we did all of those. And I've got some really long-lasting relationships. One of those is Julie, and the other one is Robbie. They're both here, and they're both people that I found that connection with through recovery in a different way. And we maintain these relationships. We talk. I still, to this day, like, the most powerful thing that I have is talking about it, and that's what leads me to connection, and that leads me to help me solve the problems that I'm dealing with, the things that I'm struggling with today. I don't struggle today like I used to. It's completely different. But for me, it was talking about it, and talking about, the more I go through this, and the more, whatever life throws at me, is talking about it with the people that I know and trust. That's the different people, like you talked about, Scott, in our lives. And that I've gone through a lot of those different people. Mm-hmm. I went through a whole phase where I dealt with what impermanence was like in my life, where people come to you and people go, and people come to you and go, and we get to share lessons, and we get to share some life, and we get to whatever. And then there's some people that just stick. Like, I can't get rid of Robbie or Julie.
Yeah. And I think you made a good point too, Steve. Like, I think when the perception is in certain circles of certain peer groups that it's forever. Once you walk into that door, you're in that door forever. And it's just, it's simply not true. And I certainly didn't want to walk in it forever. And I walked back out the door. I got a lot of useful information on it. A lot of people think that, I'm hating on AA when I say that I don't use it anymore. I'm not. I still got my big books. I got my hardcover and my softcover. They look like friggin' rainbows. There's tabs and everything in it. There's some really good information in that thing. But to tell somebody that it's forever, dude, or you're gonna die. Let's just keep the door open. You know what I mean? Like, come and go. You take what you need and leave the rest.
It was one of those things that I just couldn't subscribe to.
Sure.
Yeah.
And there needs to be like, if what you're doing isn't working for you, you're allowed to turn and walk a different direction. And you're allowed to do that as many times as you need to, because what works for you right now may not work for you in a year. But you need to keep finding things that are working. So,
yes.
Excellent.
Isn't that like just a huge broad stroke of what it could be, right? It could be medicine. It could be therapy. It could be diet and exercise. It could be so many different things that you might need a little bit of. It's really not one thing. And I think that's really important for people to understand. Like, if this isn't clicking, it's okay to say, I'm not feeling it. I got to try something else, and not feel guilty about it.
You also have to give it a valiant effort.
Sure.
Right? Like, not just walk in and say, I tried it 3 times and that's done. You can't try anything 3 times and be like, oh no, this is
right.
You have to want it to work.
Right.
You can. That's why, I understand the idea of court-ordered AA meetings or whatever, but if you don't want to be there and really, really want this to work for you with anything, with AA or with any other modality of recovery, it's not going to work. Nobody can be forced into anything and just show up with a bad attitude and think that it's going to do any good.
And putting the fear into someone, like you were saying, Scott, with it's forever. By putting the fear into me, I'm going to run away really quick because I need the knowledge. I don't need the fear. I need the self-growth. If you're going to put something above me and say, this is what's going to happen if you choose this, I'm going to turn around and walk out. There's a lot of stuff in life that does that. And that fear just drives me away. And Scott, you probably see it with people having to come in and do court order stuff. They don't want to be there. We all made the choice to change our lives, and we still make choices to change our lives, like you're saying, diet, activity, all those things. And I just don't think putting the fear above someone and holding them there is the right way sometimes too. It may work for some. I know it won't work for me.
Sure. And some people, I hope everybody's sitting down that's listening on an X. And right now we're at about 46 viewers currently, folks. I encourage the clients to give AA a shot. If they come in and I know that's probably just shocked a lot of people because everybody just thinks I'm Mr. Anti-AA, but try it. You might find something that really changes your life. I mean, I support all avenues. I really do. And when I speak against something that I don't like, that's just me being honest and authentic. It's not me hating on anything, even though it might feel like that to some people. But yeah, how many meetings you went to? 2. Okay, well, go to a different one if you went to the same one, right? Just give it another shot. It doesn't matter what peer group you're in. There's going to be that person that goes there every single day that feels more comfortable than everybody else and kind of takes control of things and kind of, you know what I mean? So just find another one.
There's for me, I just created a plan. I'm going to go to 4 meetings a week, and it was on Zoom, so I didn't have to leave my house. It was during COVID, and I stuck with the plan. And then I found this other thing, this other way, this other group, and so I started replacing meetings with theirs. So I still stuck with my plan. It just looked different, and it's just a matter. I think it's a matter of just try. It's a trying thing. Even if you show up and get nothing from it, it's an hour of your life. We have a shit ton of hours of our lives, right? To show up and try and I showed up 20 times, still not clicking. cool. What else are you going to try?
Right.
I can buy into that one, right? I can see effort there.
Another term that I don't like is the rock bottom thing. I think what Julie said is accurate. When you're ready, you have to be ready and willing to give it an honest go. I'll share just a brief snippet of me. January 2022, I put myself into treatment for 60 days up in Petoskey, Michigan. And I was in there for 60 days. I got out. 4 hours later, I was off to the worst month of my life. In the hospital, waking up in the hospital, not knowing how I got there. I don't know how many times. One time, blood alcohol content, 0.46. It was just a really crazy month for me. And so I put myself back into treatment a month later. I was there for 90 days in the treatment, and I stayed 90 days in the recovery, the sober living home. The guys told me in there, they're like, hey, it's going to go quick, so be ready. And boy, were they right. So if you ever find yourself in sober living and you got a little bit of a stay that's covered by insurance, get to work. I had two apartments set up that I was going to move into. Both of them fell through. So the day that my time ran out, I slept in my truck. And I went to the casino in Petoskey. I had a few drinks, came out, slept in the back of my truck. Hey, that didn't go too bad. All right. Hey, I still got a bottle. And then about 6 hours later, I was picked up for being passed out in a parking lot, got my 4th DUI. And when I was in jail, I was working at a treatment facility as a tech up there. My boss bailed me out, and he just happened to be a lawyer. And when I was sitting in there on the concrete floor detoxing yet a freaking again, I gave up. And I was like, I had everything. I had everything. I had, Miley was talking to me again. There was hope that my kids were going to be back in my life. I had a really good friend who was going to be my roommate. I had all these, everybody in treatment was talking about how great I was going to do. And I wanted that back. And so the next day, that's when the decision was made, and it started there. And something else that I'll throw out there, maybe it'll make something click. And somebody said that wants to pop in here. I count my sobriety date and recovery date are two completely different things. My recovery started when I made the decision to get help in January 2022. That month that I had in between, that was a shit month, but I wasn't done. I wasn't done drinking, and I wasn't done trying to recover either. That still wasn't the life that I wanted. I went back because it was comfortable, but I found a way out after 30 days to get back to the help that I needed. So I think, and somebody said relapse I think it was Julie talked about a relapse, and maybe that's something we can nibble on a little bit too. Like, what is that, right? Like if you look at the definition of the word, it's like a return to the previous condition, right? So I think words are very important. And I'm going to quit rambling now. Who's got something?
I'll share. Excellent point, Scott. Points. I think I really identified with what you guys were saying about, this worked for me until it was time to evolve, as someone in the chat said. And that's just for me. And I felt a lot of shame about leaving AA, honestly. And I don't know if it was, things in my head, hearing other people and saying you're going to relapse and this and that. And because everyone's saying you have to do this, you have to do that. And I got, I went years and I was very, very staunch AA. And then I found other ways to do recovery. And then I saw other ways that people were staying sober and getting sober. And I was like, I can't argue with all of these different things, and the thing is, Scott and I, when we would do a lot of these videos on YouTube a year ago, we would get a lot of it. Well, and on X, we would get a lot of pushback from certain people. And like he mentioned in the beginning about how, just because there's good and bad to everything, right? The truth isn't black and white to where this is the answer or this isn't the answer. And that's kind of like, it's too simplistic. And I think once you've been around for a while, you start to see that some things work for us and some things don't. And then we're able to pick and choose what works for us and what doesn't. And I think, in the beginning, I was more apt to think, no, this is the only way. I have to do it this way. It's cut and dry. And it's not. And it's just not. And a lot of clients I had didn't like to hear that, they're like, just tell me what to do. I'm like, I can't. you have to find this recovery yourself, and there's good and there's bad to everything, and we have to be honest about that. Like Scott, you were saying, you don't hate AA because you say there's multiple pathways. That means that those things don't have to be together, right? Like you can be multiple pathways and get sober anyway without hating any single one. I mean, it doesn't mean you hate AA if you approve of other things. And so I think a lot of people were thinking that, which was very strange, but I see it a lot, but I think the authenticity of telling what's good and what's bad about everything or every single type of recovery program is all right. I think the truth is okay. I don't think it's going to harm anybody. I don't know. That's just me.
It might, but we can find a way for anything to hurt us if we wanted to. Right.
Ain't that the truth?
Can take anything personally.
Yeah. Yeah. The Tigers suck. Somebody says the Tigers suck. Oh my God. You don't know anything about baseball, a-hole. So let's, if you don't mind, let's talk a little bit, because I think, every time that whatever we want to call it, right? We have a good run, a good stretch of sobriety going, and we go back to the well because we know what it'll do for us. We know, how it makes us feel. Slip, relapse, I don't even know if I like calling them those things, but we have to use them because those are just terms that are out there, right? So let's talk about that a little bit. Somebody comes to you and say, "Hey, I just drank this weekend," or talk about maybe an experience you had with that. Like I said, my recovery date is different than my sobriety date, and I feel that's fair. And as long as I feel that way, that's all that really matters. But what can we do to not? Because some people say, well, you're just opening the door for other people to drink if you don't go hard on this thing. You know what I mean? But I'm not opening the door for anybody. I'm the dude sitting talking on a podcast. I'm not doing anything. You're going to do it. If you choose to use what I say to go do it, you already had the plan to do it anyway. But it can be really devastating to go and make that choice and think, fuck, I'm starting over. You had, Julie, you said you had 14 months. Did you have that feeling of, here we go, I'm starting from square one?
I think I had a really weird experience with whatever, a slip, relapse, whatever we want to call it, because I didn't have anybody else in my life that knew what I was doing. So I didn't even have to own up to it. I was just like, oh, I decided to start drinking again. Like everybody knew that I had quit and they thought it was for health reasons or whatever, So then when I started again, I think honestly, my husband was like, oh, thank God, because he missed having a drinking buddy. Like that's what we did together. Right. So I had a weird relationship with it. I don't know that I gave it a term really. I'm now that I look back on it and talk about it, I don't really care what word we use to describe it because it doesn't, it just doesn't bother me. But I would never in a million years recommend someone go and drink again. I also think that had to happen exactly the way that it did for me to learn the lessons I needed to never do that again. I had I was, 14 months in, I had basically figured out how to be sober. I hadn't done any work at all because I didn't even know what that meant. But I just had a bad day. I don't even remember what happened. So it obviously wasn't that bad. I just remember I was frustrated or, life happened in some way or another. And I knew there were some beers in the fridge downstairs where my husband kept his. And he's not a big drinker, just to clarify. But, there were a few beers down there and I went and I drank one. And I only had one and I was like, oh, this is cool. I'm fine. I can just like you said, Scott, totally, I can do this. This is no problem. Obviously I'm fixed. And it was within a couple months, it was a problem again. Within 6 months, it was way beyond where it had been when I had quit the first time. I picked up almost immediately and it just ran away with me. And a bunch of other stuff happened. It took a year for me to get back on. And I will say quitting the second time was 1,000 times harder than quitting the first time. And then you have this voice in your head that's like, oh my God, I've done this once before. Why can't I do it again? What's wrong with me? And then you get all mad at yourself and that just makes it all even harder and even worse. But that was enough to make me realize that I know for me, if I were to drink again, it would be off to the races and there might not be any coming back with the way that one time went. I'm not willing to risk it. I can have the worst possible day. I've been through some stuff in this round of sobriety, and never does it even cross my mind that drinking would be a good idea, because I know how fast that would just, throw some gasoline on the dumpster fire. So, yeah, that was, I mean, I don't know. I never think anybody should relapse. Obviously, I don't think it's like, but
No.
you can learn the lesson. And if you can just take it for what it is, let go of the shame and be like, all right, what did this need to teach me? What did I need to learn here? Because I need to carry a lesson forward, not just shame. Like it doesn't do any of us any good to go back and then just carry shame forward. That's just
Yes.
going to keep us stuck. But if we can figure out what the lesson is and carry that forward, I think that's how you get through something like that and gain from it.
Hell yeah. Yeah, I mean, a piece of cake doesn't have to ruin your diet.
Exactly. Exactly. And I've got clients who, they may have had one or two nights where they decided to go back and drink, and then we're like, no, that was a terrible idea, and they move forward and they choose not to restart their sober date or whatever. Like, I think everybody has to define that for themselves. There are people who will just say, I've been on a recovery journey for 6 years. And they define what that means for them. I don't think one of the hardest, most unhelpful things is when someone tries to shame you for counting your days or timing, putting the time frame on your journey the way that they think you should instead of the way you think you should. It is so unhelpful and so unnecessary.
I think that goes both ways too, right? I hear a lot of times, well, you're just whatever 2 years in. I'm 16 years in. You know nothing.
Mhm.
And those ones really get me going, because everyone's journey is different, and I haven't had a relapse, but I made the decision. There was many times where I quit and slowed down, or whatever we want to call it, through my time with substances. Then I finally was like, I'm done. And when I made that decision to myself, that was something that was deep down in my heart, that this is what I have to do. And that's what I did. If you have a slip up and something happens, like, look, this is all part of our journey. Like you were saying, Julie, I'm not going to, give someone crap for slipping up or whatever your days are. I'm here for you. This is part of your journey. Move forward and move on. We can't get stuck in those places, because we'll go right back to what we're doing, and just got to keep moving forward. And there were some, times in the very beginning where there was some cravings, and, I told on myself. Those were very few. And when I told on myself with connections I have, those go away real quick after that. You tell on yourself, and because they're asking a whole lot of questions. And that's another good tool too. It's like, why did I get that craving? Where am I at? Good or bad? And once you can recognize them, then it's a lot easier to, keep moving through this journey.
I was gonna say and you saying that, Robbie, kind of brought this back for me. We were talking about connection earlier, and I think one thing we didn't really touch on is connecting with ourselves. We connect with other people, and that is absolutely paramount in all of this. But also connecting with ourselves, because we keep our emotions and our everything shut off and hidden even from ourselves. And so, like Robbie, you were saying, what is it that's causing this craving? For me, if we're talking about tools, journaling was huge. And I say journaling, and most people are like, so I'm supposed to write about everything that I did today. Like, that is a diary. Journaling is where you write down the stuff that you really don't want to say out loud. And you write down the stuff you don't actually want to admit to yourself or anybody else. And you start getting the words out. And for me, I had to start there before I could even talk to other people about it. I remember being so I had, when I first quit drinking, I had an 18-year-old, and I feel like that should just explain everything right there. But I was so angry with her at one point, and that's one of the things that would make us go and drink, right? Was like that deep anger. You don't know what to do about it, so you would just drink it away. And I'm like, I can't drink. What am I supposed to do with this anger? So I started journaling, and then, started asking myself, why am I so angry? Well, it's because she did blah, 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 whatever. But no, really, why am I angry? Oh, it's because her doing that makes me feel like that makes me look like a bad mom. And then, oh, wait, I feel like I look like a bad mom because I feel like everything has to be perfect. And then I could like start touching on my self-worth and my perfectionism and all those little things underneath that were actually causing this whole feeling of rage. And that's kind of an example of what I mean by like reconnecting with ourselves. It's ask those hard things, because it felt gross when I was like, oh my gosh, I'm mad at her for doing this thing she did because it makes me look bad. No mom wants to say that out loud. It doesn't feel good, you know? But if we're being honest, that's where some of that came from. That's when you figure out what needs to be worked on. And so for me, journaling was a massive tool in that connection piece. And once I could say it to myself, I could turn around to the people that I trusted and say, oh my gosh, I just realized this about myself. I don't know what to do about it, and start getting some input and some feedback.
Yeah, I journaled and journaled and journaled, and I thought the same thing. You know, I'm a guy, I don't diary. And maybe this is something, you know, that Robbie and Steve, you know, can touch more on too. Maybe, you know, I'm not going to do a diary, but my God, when I started writing down my thoughts, even like you said, Julie, it doesn't have to be, you know, a diary like, you know, today I went to the mall, and, you know, it can just be, I'm pissed off, F so-and-so, F this, you know, I want to drink. I want to punch a hole in the wall. Just put words down: angry, sad, pissed off, you know, miserable, you know, just use it for an outlet. You know, I even went as far as I learned how to write an Elder Futhark. And so I journal in that. So when I was in my last treatment, I'm writing an Elder Futhark. This guy over here won't shut up. And I'm like, this fucking idiot won't shut up. And, you know, and you couldn't look over it and he couldn't see a shit. But my God, was it therapeutic. And I tell you what, I recommend it to every client that I can. Even the dudes, you know, like, get a pad, get a book, start writing. It's so helpful.
Mm-hmm.
You never know when you're not going to have somebody else to talk to. Here's mine, right?
Oh, yeah.
So, like, you never know when you're not going to have somebody else to talk to. You're fucking angry and all the rest of it, and you don't want to deal with somebody else's bullshit or somebody else's opinions, right? You don't have to deal with that. You just get to deal with your own. But it is great when you feel the need to get stuff out. You have the choice. You can hold on to it, right? You can hold on to it, or you can let it go. And putting it down on paper or talking about it are two fantastic ways of figuring out how to let it go. And you might not let it go the first time, the second time, the third time, or the fourth time. Christ, it could take you 20, 30, 40, 200 before you really figure it out what the root of whatever it is, because my brain's pretty good at avoiding really hard shit.
Oh, yeah. I'll just show this quickly. That's what it looks like when you write in the runes.
Oh,
Amazing.
my God.
And so it's like,
That's fantastic.
nobody's going to look over my shoulder. You know, one thing Robbie said too, I wanted to touch on this too. You know, I'll watch my language here, but it really is kind of a private part measuring contest with days and day count.
A private part. Yeah.
Yes.
Well, I'm glad you said it that way, because I was going to say it the other way.
Yeah, well, I got new friends here today. Like I'm trying to, I would have said it the other way any other time. But one thing that happened to me when I first started doing this, I decided, you know, journaling was going so well for me in treatment. I'm going to do a video journal. I'm going to talk about my journey on, and I created the Sober Heathen. And if you go back and watch the videos on my channel, they're just basically me talking. And I remember this one time I was going through the steps and kind of giving my take on the steps as I had learned them in treatment, the way I see them. And somebody came right on the comments. I was only 4 or 6 months treatment. And they're like, don't you think that you should have a little more time than 4 or 6 months before you go and take your own take on the 12 steps?
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, I didn't mean to offend you, sir. I'm just kind of documenting my journey here. They're all yours. You know what I mean? But I was still into it for a very long time. You know what I mean? Like it is useful if it motivates you. So do whatever the hell you need to do to kick this thing in its ass. But it's the whole thing, the whole journey isn't wasted on a number count. Mm-hmm. It's just not. It doesn't have to be.
Yeah.
I want to say the relapse thing, and it's a pissing contest too. I mean, I guess that's not really bad, just terrible to say, right? But I always say that on my channel too. It can be that. It can be. I would never tell my clients how much time I had, anything like that. I don't like to tell anybody, honestly. And I didn't when I had a lot of years sober, because it's like a hierarchy thing. I don't know. Did anybody secretly like put yourself in a place compared to someone else when you heard, how much time do you have? How much time do you have? It's like, oh, okay. I'm not going to listen to that person. They've only got a year. All right. I'm not going to do that. I mean, those are the thoughts I had. And so I got to be honest about that I just, and a lot of people knew, I noticed that they would say that. They'd be like, well, you don't have a lot of time sober, to people. They would say that to someone else. And I'm like, they may have way better sobriety than I did, coming into a program than when I had years sober. And then, I went back out. And so that's a reality check. I've had years sober and gone back out a couple times. And it's a horrible feeling. It sucks. It's harder every time to come back. And the shame can be overwhelming, but I found that me just being open and honest about what had happened was the best way for me to work through that, and to just be honest, like, hey, I messed up and this and that. And, it's not a part, I don't think it has to be a part of anybody's recovery, but I've seen it be a part of many of our stories. And I think that's fine, because most of us, we're not normally, like, we're drunk, we're high, we're using something else normally, right? So we got to give ourselves some grace when we mess up a little bit. And I don't want to give myself grace. I want to give someone else grace and say, hey, it's fine. Like, someone comes to me and they're like, hey, I drank. I'm like, all right, so what? What's up? What happened? And then we talk about it, and they go, all right, well, the only mistake you can make now is to continue doing it, because just get right back. Because what I did is I said, oh my God, I lost 4 or 5 years. I'm going to make this relapse worth it. It's like, that's not real. What kind of
Nobody's ever thought that, Lindsay. Nobody's ever thought that.
And we all do
What are you,
it.
nuts?
I'm like, oh, I'm gonna make this time count, because when I gotta go back into those rooms again or wherever, I gotta get sober again, because this isn't me. But I'm gonna stay as long as I can out here and really mess stuff up. And that's what I did.
I've done the same thing with food.
Yeah.
Exact same thing. You start to diet, you start taking care of yourself, you start, I'll take sugar out of my diet. We've done that, all three of us, myself, Robbie, and Julie. And then in July, my kids came. I had my kids for a month, and it was great. Threw the diet out the window and dropped the kids back off at home with their mom. I've got all of this stuff, junk candy and all the rest of that stuff that's like left over. And I just went to town before I knew I had to get rid of it all. I didn't throw it out. I just consumed all of the junk. Like, you can see how relatable this is to exactly what she's talking. I consumed it all. I'm like, all right, it's time to go to town. Feel like shit for the next 3 days. And then, and deal with basically the sugar hangover. I mean, the mentality behind it, and I can see it when it's happening. I'm going, oh my God, like, I've done this before. It's just a different thing, but I've done it before. And the same way out of it, like, I use the same way out of that I did way back in the day when I walked my way out of drinking.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I've done the same thing. Like, I, like, for whatever reason, ate a couple of cookies or something. And then I'm like, oh, well, I've got a birthday party to go to in 2 weeks, and I'm going to want to eat cake there. So I might as well just eat junk for the next 2 weeks. And then I'll quit the sugar again after the birthday party. Like, 100% the same as alcohol, which is wild to me. But Steve and I have kind of been doing this no sugar thing together, and realizing all of the same mind games as our brains played with alcohol, every single one of them, the bargaining and the, maybe I can just get away, or I'll be like, oh, my kid brought home ice cream. Well, I could have a little bit. Steve won't know. I don't have to tell him. Right? It's so bad, but it's also a reminder of, oh my gosh, this is exactly what it was like early on. And goodness knows I don't want to go back to that, because the pull from alcohol was way harder.
Sure.
than the pull from sugar was. So
Sure. And just might be off topic, but I don't think it isn't, or I don't think it is, when, kind of combining everything that we just talked about, what is a slip relapse versus that thing, is time, a dick measuring contest. There, I said it.
Awesome.
We're all friends now.
We're all friends now.
Whoops, I keep hitting my mic here.
We're really bonding right now.
Yeah, we are. I mean,
Something. Sorry.
and then so I said the D word, and now I lost my train of thought.
You got all excited, huh?
Yes, sir. So I got it. So these same people that will do this and pass these judgments, oh, you got to start over. Oh, you don't have enough time. Blah blah blah. They're the same ones that are chain smoking before and after these meetings, and they're sucking down coffee like it's the life source, right? Completely ignoring caffeine and nicotine, as a substance, because why? Right? Like, I mean, you're still using something to get through your day. So that the whole point of me bringing this up is we need to just calm the fuck down and give people a chance to grab onto the ladder that you're trying to give them. And the more that you put on them, and the more you make it, you're making it harder. You don't have enough time, take the cotton out of your ears and put it in your mouth, basically telling people don't talk. Again, I'm not trying to take it this way. I just want people to understand that I lived through it. That wasn't helpful to me, right? Like, yes, alcohol was far more detrimental than any caffeine that I put in my body. I understand that, right? But if we want to nitpick, like some people nitpick, we could do that.
Mm-hmm. Right.
What are you talking about? The perfectionism in sobriety?
Yes. Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it. Yeah.
mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So what is it?
I remember sitting there at a barbecue, a bunch of sober people, and Steve and I were talking about something and said talking about, I don't remember exactly what we said, but something about like maintaining long-term sobriety. And we were, 2.5, 3 years sober at the time. And I heard this woman who has, 40 something years sober turn to someone else with a similar amount of time and kind of say something snarky under her breath about how, we didn't have a right to be even saying that about ourselves yet. I'm like, at that point, like, there's nothing helpful about that attitude. I don't think she intended for me to hear it, but it wasn't helpful. It wasn't productive. It didn't make anybody else who happened to overhear that feel very good either. And yeah, it's not about measuring. It's about the work you've done and about how you feel about yourself and how your life is going in relation to your values and your goals. That's it. That's all that matters.
I also hate when, you're talking about the rock bottom, like the rock bottom stories that we hear of, celebrities or whatever, like how bad it was. Like, then people have to justify how bad their rock bottom was to get where they are today. I hate that. Like, I don't care what your rock bottom is. I care about you getting past and growing as a human being. Like, we don't need to use that as a measurement either of how bad someone was in their addiction. For me, I got a DUI when I was pretty young. Didn't even think about it, just kept going, right? That was way in my past. And then one day, the whole thing was I got to do better for myself. And that's why. So my parents, all, addicts of some sort. When I told them I was going to, become sober, they're like, well, you don't have a problem. That's what I was told.
Yes.
So my rock bottom wasn't even bad enough for my family to go, you need to stop.
Mm-hmm.
So it didn't affect anyone. My daughter didn't really know or anything like that. So I really hate when people try to come in and use their measurement of rock bottom as clout or cred. It's a turnoff for me. And if they can show that they're doing something, cool. But don't think that you're going to get that cred with me because you did whatever. It's all about you as a human being.
Allow me to give an example, if you may. Steve doesn't have a DUI. You haven't suffered enough.
Yeah.
Right.
You haven't suffered enough, so I don't think that you could possibly be in recovery because you didn't really have a problem because you haven't suffered enough. Look at me.
I've been told before that I was likely not an alcoholic.
Oh, for fuck's sake!
Seriously, I kid you not, because I changed. For me, there's been an evolvement where I turned around, and I think it was about a year ago, where I turned around and I said, I'm no longer a recovering alcoholic. I'm a recovered alcoholic. And as soon as I went down that road, and I knew I was going to open a can of worms, but as soon as I went down that road, my sobriety became a thing to attack. And literally remember getting in. I mean, I didn't get in an argument, but on a live being told that you probably weren't even an alcoholic if you figured that you're recovered. And I was like, this is fantastic. Thank you for telling me all about my own experience. You know what I mean? Like, I can't believe you lived my life in my 30s. Right? Like, congratulations. I don't. But anyways, yeah, go ahead.
There's
Julie.
like this. You didn't have to work as hard for this as I did, because you didn't suffer as many consequences as I did. So my sobriety means more, or is more powerful, or harder earned than yours is. I've heard that kind of, that story a number of times, where, I hit this rock bottom and I had these health consequences and I had these legal consequences and I did all of this and I tried to quit 465 times before it finally stuck, and I've been to rehab 83 times and now I'm sober, and you only relapsed once, so that just doesn't even count. Right? I mean, that's like, it's almost this battle of did I suffer more than you? Was it harder for me to quit than it was for you? And it just drives me crazy.
Isn't it funny? There are battles that we have as sober people. It's like, wow, there's so many things, and we're arguing about the dumbest things. And I think
Are you sober? Yes. Awesome. Me too. Let's carry on.
Like, I would have clients say, and I said this when I first went to rehab. I was like 20, and they're like, someone that's like, oh, I did hardcore drugs and you just drank, so it's like, this is easy for you. And it's like, hold on, please. I've done hardcore drugs. And then after that, I relapsed on alcohol. And I'll tell you what, alcohol took me down. It was harder. I don't want to say harder, but it like, I realized some things about, it's all the same. It's literally all the same.
It's all the same. Alcohol's on every street corner. There's plenty of studies now that are showing it's just as bad for you or worse than heroin. And I think, as brilliant as Bill Wilson was, I think he really screwed the pooch. He didn't, but I think his people did, when he started talking about the moderate drinker, the heavy drinker, and the real alcoholic. I can't tell you how many times that I see this thing on social media where it's like, I'm a real alcoholic. What, as opposed to the fake one? You think a bunch of people are out here, they're putting on the resume. Yeah, I'm an alcoholic. Not a real one though, but I'm an alcoholic. Like, nobody is going into these rooms pretending to be an alcoholic. If they say they're an alcoholic, I don't know Bill. I've never met Bill, but I feel his intent in more about alcoholism was to help you diagnose yourself, right? Not judge other people, assholes. Like, I'm a real alcoholic. That if there's a pet peeve on social media, that's it. But
I used to use that as a way to explain to people, to say, this is how AA differentiates between the real alcoholic addict and the non-one, and the one that doesn't need a higher power, and the result of these 12 steps to whatever. And I'm like, oh, it's just so much, because I don't really believe that, and I'm like, it's just so wild, because I have to explain things. I did believe that at one time though, and that's wild.
It's just crazy how the competitive nature of human beings, that we will compete on how severe of an alcoholic we are.
I think, yeah, and that's it right there, right? Like, at some point, I think you call about the competitive nature. It's like that hierarchical. We need to figure out where we sit in a group of people, right? And so we start using things, stuff, statistics or whatever that are important to us to generate some sort of hierarchy to place us, because we do that. I mean, animals do that, people do that. We're animals, so like, that's what we do to figure out where we fit within whatever social group that we're in eventually. I think it just happens. It's part of it. Some of us need to get it out there right away so we can figure out where we sit. And I think it's probably a comfort or coping mechanism, a way to feel safe.
It's a little bit of a self-worth issue, right? I mean, I used to sit there and compare myself to every mother, on the block and be like, oh my God, am I as good as her? Is she better than me? And then I could feel better about myself if I looked down on some people, but then the people who I thought were better than me would make me feel terrible about myself. And it took me a shit ton of work to get past all of that and just be like, I am fine as I am. That's it. We have to do the same thing with recovery. Like if you find yourself comparing and figuring out where you fit in so you can look down on some people, or so you feel bad when you look up to other people or whatever, like you got some work to do. That's all that means.
But I mean, what does it have to do with anything though? If you think about it, like we're comparing, like, wow, they weren't as bad as me. Like, ew. It's like, what are you talking about?
So when someone turns around and they're like, you know what, I was drinking 3 times a week and I was drinking 4 beers each day, blah, 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 blah. It's becoming a problem. I need to quit. I'm like, fucking right, dude.
Yep.
Amazing. Congratulations. Yeah. You didn't get near as far down the rabbit hole as I did. I love this for you. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? I don't care how much or how much worse. I don't want you to hit the yets that I hit. Mm-hmm. Right? Because there's people that hit so many more yets that I didn't. They had to hit all of those yets to get to where they are now. Right? We're all going to have our last yet. Mm-hmm. Right? And we can keep going down the yet hole until you hit the rock bottom. It'll be there. It exists. But we don't have to have the next yet. It doesn't have to be that way. And if somebody has the self-awareness to turn around and go, this isn't benefiting me in my life, and I don't care if it's 2 drinks a week, if this isn't benefiting you in your life, and you're going to show up and you're going to say, hey, can you help me with this? Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Proud of you. That it lights my heart up, because there's so much worse ahead of those people if they continue down that path. It might take them 30 years of the same thing over and over and over again. But man, look what kind of life they're trying to give themselves. Right. I think it's great.
I do too. I think it's important. That's what I always say too. I love, you perfectly stated it. And I'll always say, it doesn't matter. I don't care if you're a real alcoholic or if you hardly drink. If you want to change your life, that's all that matters. You don't need to tell me you're an alcoholic. Alcoholic only exists in AA. It's not a medical term. And I can go down these little rabbit holes, but it doesn't matter to me. If you want to be a better person, better than the day before, and you want to put down the alcohol because you think you can improve your life, I'm stoked, man. That's all that matters. And I share my stuff because maybe you don't have to go as low as I went. Maybe you can see that, like, hey, you can stop now because your rock bottom's wherever you want it to be. It's wherever your threshold of emotional pain is. And that's like, no more. All right, I'm good. I need help. That's it. That's your bottom.
Yeah. And I know we're over the hour mark now, and thank you to the 60 people listening live as we're doing this thing. That's really cool. One of my favorite memories in working this job was handsome young man comes in, handsome young man, dude's making like almost 6 figures a year, comes in with this beautiful fiance. He has a problem with I got to be very vague here, with the substance. Never had any legal trouble or anything like that, but it was starting to become a problem. And they walk in together. He sits down. I have a problem. I need some help. We get him signed up. We get him in. He did therapy for like a month or 2, and then he disappeared for a little bit. Called me one day, dude, I just used again. I'm just down the road from my house. Can I call my fiance and can you talk to us? And I was like, hell yeah, I can. And just be able to do that, no legal troubles, she's supporting him 100%, could have lost a lot more. And then he's right back on, he's back to work, kicking ass, making a bunch of money again. Why does it have to be this terrible story before we celebrate it? I love what Steve said. He caught it, he recognized it, and he got got some assistance for it. It hasn't been a perfect stint, but that's still an amazing story. You know what I mean? Like, it's fucking amazing. And
Those are the best stories.
Yeah.
Really. Those are the ones that I love. I think talking about stuff like we are here makes stories like that more common, because those people are going to be, anybody who is just dabbling in the idea of maybe this isn't serving me anymore. If they can hear conversations like this and realize it's okay, you can give that up now. You don't have to wait until it gets really bad. Man,
Yeah.
that makes like sitting here talking for an hour like that much more worth it, right?
Yeah. I'm telling you. Oh, go ahead, Robbie.
I was going to say, I've had some people come up to me and go, I've been very open about, my sobriety and recovery. And I had some people come up to me and go, I never thought you had a problem, but now I'm really questioning my problem.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh,
and I'm like, that to me just was like, that's all I needed to hear sometimes, was like me being open about it and not hitting that big, huge rock bottom that society wants us to hit, made other people question where they're at with their substance abuse. And it's really amazing. And I've had some people quit, and I've had some people like chill out. Then I've had some people not talk to me anymore after that. That's okay.
I'd like to add something to that I think is important. I realize that when people start to kind of diss someone for not having a low bottom, which is very wild and weird that I've come to think of it, but it is something that happens in treatment centers, and I'd always have it in my groups, and I think about it now, I'm like, it's probably more difficult for someone to realize they might have a problem when they haven't had these external consequences that I've had. They haven't had the privilege of going to prison like me, so it's not tangible, to see like, well, because they have this going on, right? That's not the external stuff. So I think it's kind of more difficult. And I've seen a lot of clients struggle with it on that level of, well, but this hasn't happened to me, so maybe my life is manageable. So maybe I'm not an alcoholic, so maybe I can drink normally. So maybe I don't have to quit.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, it's up here. Like what Robbie just said. I mean, that was 100%. I love what you said, Robbie. So
and it keeps people away. It can absolutely keep people away. You think you have to hit this benchmark in order to be affiliated with this group, when you really might want to be affiliated with this group. You know what I mean? Like I really want to talk about this, but I don't. My first DUI, walking in the rooms of AA, and these guys are started telling their stories, and my first thought was, oh, I'm not this bad. I'm not this bad.
Mm-hmm.
Guess what? I'm not bad now. I'm not bad. No, that's a terrible way to say it. You guys, I really like talking to all you guys, because you really changed. Words are important. I knew that coming in, but I kind of feel bad now that I even mentioned this sobriety date, because it's irrelevant. And then I feel bad too mentioning the 4 DUIs, because that's also irrelevant to anybody else. But it's part of the story, right? You know what I mean?
It's 100% relevant because it's part of the story,
right?
Yeah.
And
Right.
I think part of having it be part of the story is what makes it relevant. It doesn't have to be a dick cred chucking contest for us to just share what that truth is.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I think. Go ahead.
Sorry, I keep interrupting you, Steve. I think so to Lindsay's point, where you felt like when you were, you don't like sharing your date because then you feel like it might make people feel uncomfortable. I loved when I went into some of my very first little groups the sober groups that I did, hearing how much time people had, because that gave me hope.
Sure.
Yeah.
And so I think, and I don't, no perspective is right or wrong, but on the flip side of that, to hear somebody that was 6 months sober talking about life being okay,
Mm-hmm.
when I was 1 day sober and felt like nothing would ever be okay again, to be like, I could feel that way in 6 months. That gave me so much hope. I was like, all right, I'm in, let's do this. It's not going to, be however long, like that felt manageable. So I think that, on both sides of that, it just gives context to the story. That's it. It's no better or worse, but it does give context.
in AA, I tell my date, but I'm talking about outside of that.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
an everyday kind of thing. I just don't.
Yeah.
My very first meeting, and it was on day one, and my very first meeting was a AA Zoom meeting. I was freaking terrified as hell, and it was the guy's 45th sober anniversary. That was the meeting. They were celebrating his 45 years sober. I didn't really say a word that day when I was there, but I'll never forget the feeling that I got. Holy fuck, it can be done.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what that gave me. It gave me it. I was able to look at that guy and go, holy shit, I can have the next 45 years of my life sober. That felt absolutely empowering. Even though I was in tears, it gave me hope.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you were absolutely right. It is relevant, and it's all about how the intent of the message delivered, right?
That's it.
And
right
you can
there.
feel the intent depending on where you're at. And sometimes, you might take a couple meetings to get to know somebody's real intent, but that's why, I'm gonna, God forbid, I use an AA slogan: keep coming back until you know, right? Until you get a good beat on. Give it a chance. Give everything that, if you're struggling, give everything a chance until it doesn't work anymore, and then move on to something else. I don't want to discourage anybody from doing anything, ever.
No, I think with the overall societal expectation is, if you go and do this thing, it's going to help me right away, because all we want is instant gratification. Like, we live in a world full of instant gratification. So if I go and do this thing 1 or 2 times, I'm going to feel better. And that's not, that isn't how this game works. This is a long game. This game is an absolute bet on yourself as soon as you start. Yeah. And every day you wake up and that wager is on the table. It's just how it exists. And eventually you stop caring about the wager, but you have to at the beginning.
Scott, since we're talking about meetings and stuff, do you care if I plug our Zoom meeting? Would that be okay with you?
Oh, absolutely. We're going to end it with you plugging whatever you guys want to plug. Please do.
Yeah, plug your YouTube on there for my people to see. Please, all you guys.
Awesome.
Whatever your channels are, I plug my own.
I just want to make sure folks know. So if AA hasn't worked for you, or if it's just not feeling like the right fit, Steve and I host a free weekly Zoom meeting where we just get together and talk about real stuff, whatever's going on, and support each other in any way that we can. So it's very laid back. It's a lot like this conversation here, honestly, like just what works and what doesn't, and where are you at right now, and how can we show up for you. So you can find the information about our Zoom meeting on our website at throughtheglassrecovery.com. And it's just a really cool resource for, I know, especially with your listeners, there's probably a lot of people who aren't feeling a huge, deep connection to AA, but are still like, where am I supposed to find this support that you speak of? So we're there every Monday. Me, Steve, and Robbie are there.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lindsay.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'd love to. I'd love to talk to you guys some more too.
For sure.
Yeah. Will you put your YouTube in there for the men's meeting, and then the men's YouTube that you have too, and then will you have a YouTube through the Glass Recovery too?
Through the Glass Recovery has a YouTube channel. It is just the audio version of the podcast, but starting this season, we're actually going to do video too. So we're gonna have the audio part. The YouTube channel is now going to have video alongside everything else. We're going into season 4. What episode are we on now? 150 something.
Almost 160.
Yeah.
You can find Through the Glass Recovery podcast though on Spotify, Apple, Amazon, everywhere. You can search for Through the Glass Recovery.
It's all there. We do things just a little bit differently than any other recovery podcast that I've heard. Anyways, is we invite 2 or 3 guests to join Julie and myself to have a discussion around a topic related to recovery and life. And so it's a roundtable discussion just like this. 5 people pick a topic, and then everybody gets to roundtable share. It's all about getting the life experience out there. It's all about getting perspectives, and the idea is it is literally a carbon copy of the form of recovery that worked best for us. So we went to a meeting, and in that meeting there was 20 people at that meeting. Once the topic was introduced and we introduced ourselves, we went into breakout rooms of 4 or 5 people.
Awesome.
And it was that intimate conversation about that topic that really catapulted and launched our recoveries. And then we wanted to bring those conversations to people because that's how much it's affected our lives.
Mhm.
And so that is the whole point. So that's what our recovery meetings look like too. So if you listen to the podcast, we present a topic, you go into breakout rooms that are 4 and 5 people, and you get to have a conversation about it for half an hour. And then we all come back to the same room, and then we shoot the breeze. Sometimes we hang around. There's no like time limit. There's no cap limit. There's your cap limit is whatever time you have available. If you want to hang out and have a chat, and we, chat philosophy or whatever it is, you know what I mean? Just life, and you need support. We hang around after. It's not like the meetings, oh, yep, hours up, done, peace out, see you later. If you're still like, hey, I would love to get your perspective on this, and this is what I'm dealing with, there's always a handful of people that hang around to help out and show up and give support. So it's unique in a lot of those different aspects.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I've been on the podcast Through the Glass a couple times. Steve and Julie are super gentle. So don't be afraid of going on and sharing if you get that opportunity, for sure.
And for the record, you can go to our website and search the word heathen in the search bar, and it will pull up the episodes that Scott has been on. So make sure you check that. I'm so proud of myself that I figured out how to put the search bar in there.
Yeah.
But I don't think anybody else goes by anything related to heathen. So that's the perfect search term for you, Scott.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, we got invited on here because I invited Scott onto the podcast, and the dates didn't work for this upcoming recording. So he's going to be on at some point.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to having you back on the pod, Scott.
Yeah.
And then Robbie, do you want to talk about Forged in Silence? I'll give you I'll shut up.
throw me in the spot here, huh?
Yeah, I did.
You're the one that's usually doing all the advertisement.
I know, that's why I'm giving it to you.
You can find Forged in Silence at YouTube at Forged in Silence podcast. Just search it, you'll find it. Give us a subscribe, a comment. We're really trying to get engagement through our videos with men, women. We love when women listen to become better spouses, and also we've had some mothers that listen to the podcast because they have sons and they don't know how to deal with their boys through adolescence. So that's also another really cool thing that we've had. Like Steve said, where men like to be quiet. We don't have an outlet to talk about everyday things a lot of times, the loneliness, relationships with family and friends. And as we get older, we lose those friendships or what we were in high school or college. A lot of men hold on to what they were in college or high school. Like, I was a football player in college or high school, and they hold on to that. Then they get in their mid-40s and they're like, I'm still that football player, but they're not, right? And they've lost all those friends, all those contacts. Then they find themselves not knowing who they are. And most of us know the rate that men kill themselves every day is pretty far up there because they don't feel they have anyone to talk to. But there is some places you can go find. We've had some of our guests and some people reach out saying it's really hard to find a men's mental health space that just talks freely. Steve and I get on there when we have guests and we just have a conversation. That's an experience. We want to put out as much experience as we can for men to know that they're not alone. They don't have to suffer in silence. We're here. We're good as we are, as what we can be. And sometimes we need some work and sometimes we need some help, and they don't know how to find it. So if that's something, you need help with or want to adventure on that avenue or journey, you can find us on YouTube. Then we're also on Spotify and Apple. You can find us there at Forged in Silence podcast.
Lindsay, before you go, I had to put my head down for a second. I was starting to get a little teary-eyed because it's so important what you guys are starting here, because I had a brother from another mother who, when I met him in treatment, I was like, oh no, this guy's going to be trouble. Just looking at him, he had that look about his face. I'd been to prison, that kind of thing. Just had this look about him, like he's going to be trouble. And it turns out he was one of the kindest souls I've ever met in my entire life. And I love the guy, and I miss him. I miss him terribly. He went back to the well, as I called it earlier, one too many times and didn't pull out the last time. And, we had some really incredible conversations one-on-one. We shared a room in sober living. And so I know he needed that outlet. And I'm carrying some guilt myself. And that's not important right now, that I left him up there and came home to my family, my kids. But he made that choice to do that again. It wasn't on me, but I love him and I wish I could have been there. And maybe a podcast like this, he would have stumbled upon and then, heard something or found a connection, to use the word that we've been using, and maybe he'd still be here. So the next Eric out there, I hope, finds your podcast or any of our podcasts and finds something to latch onto just for one more fucking day, because the world's a lesser place today without this guy. So thank you for what you guys are doing. Okay. Lindsay.
Yes, sir.
Plug away, homie.
Oh, Lindsay Valandry. That's my name. Just find me.
How do you spell that?
Let me spell that out for you.
Did I spell it out in the little scroll, the little ticker at the bottom correctly?
You got it. I talk about recovery of all kinds, all different sorts of things. Sometimes I get sidetracked. I do talk a little shit, but I'm working on it, because every day, it's spiritual progress, not spiritual perfection. So that's what I try to do.
Well, hell yeah. So with the 64 people listening, thank you for that. And I know that the recovery community as a whole on social media is a better place with, you know what? I'm going to give myself a compliment. With the 5 of us, I was going to say the 4.
There you go, as you should. As you should.
5 of us out here speaking and sharing our experiences and, what has worked and what hasn't. And, there can't be enough pathways for people to walk, right? And it goes without saying, but I'll say it anyway. We can't walk the path for you, but God damn it, I'll walk with you. And just to end on kind of, maybe I don't know if it's funny or not, but I walked a guy home. He showed up. Okay, it's a beautiful story. And we can end on this one. He's been coming to treatment. He's on a very tough treatment court program. He came in, he was drinking and a lot. And I ended up literally carrying him home, walking him home from the office to his house. About a mile trek, not that long, but he wasn't a big guy, but it was quite the chore. But you can take that 2 ways. Oh well, he's he went back to drinking and now he's going to get. Or not only was he drinking, but even in the drink, he knew where he could get help, and he came in and asked for it.
Yeah. And
to me, that's badass. That's magic happening. And it might not look like it to everybody, but when you're in that mindset and you're right in the thick of use and you're like, I'm going to go here because they can help me. That's pretty sweet. So
absolutely.
Help anybody.
Yep.
Lindsay, Julie, Steve, Robbie, this was fun. Maybe we can do it again sometime. I'll get on the website and I'll try to find a time that I can squeak in to chat with you guys on your home turf.
Yeah.
And, Robbie, it's great meeting you. I look forward to more podcasts from you and Steve on that front. And
thank you for having us. Thank you for having me. Really
Thanks so
appreciate
much.
it. Yeah.
Thank you.
all right. Oh, she got out quick.